The research station orbiting Proxima Centauri was quiet, as it always was. The hum of machines filled the air, a constant reminder of the delicate balance between human ingenuity and the vast emptiness of space. Daniel Carter sat at his workstation, staring intently at the screens in front of him. His fingers moved across the keyboard with practiced ease, inputting commands and analyzing data. He wasn't one for small talk, and that suited him just fine. In the silence of space, there was only work to be done. Across the room, Lavra Bennett leaned over her own console, her brow furrowed in concentration. She was younger than Daniel by a few years, but her sharp mind had earned her a place on this prestigious project. Her job was to monitor communications, scanning the void for any signals that might hint at life beyond Earth. It was a task that required patience, something Lavra had plenty of. But even she couldn't deny the monotony of days spent listening to static and silence. Today, however, something was different. Laura's screen flickered, catching her attention. At first, she thought it was a glitch, a minor hiccup in the system. But when she ran diagnostics, everything checked out. The signal was real. "Daniel," she called, her voice steady but tinged with excitement. "You need to see this." Daniel turned away from his screen and walked over to her station. He didn't say anything, just stood behind her and looked at the data streaming across the monitor. The signal was faint, almost drowned out by the background noise of the universe. But it was there, unmistakable, a pattern. Not random bursts of energy or the usual cosmic interference. They were looking at something deliberate. "What do you think it is?" Lavra asked, glancing up at him. "I don't know yet," Daniel replied, his tone measured. He pulled up a chair and began running additional analyses. The signal was unlike anything they'd encountered before. It wasn't in any known language, but it carried mathematical sequences, prime numbers, Fibonacci patterns, ratios that hinted at intelligence far beyond natural phenomena. Whoever or whatever had sent it knew what they were doing. For hours, the two scientists worked side by side, trying to decode the message. They cross-referenced it with every database they had access to, searching for similarities or clues. Nothing matched. The signal was unique, alien in the truest sense of the word. As the hours ticked by, fatigue began to creep in, but neither of them wanted to stop. This was the discovery they had dreamed of, the reason they had dedicated their lives to studying the stars. Finally, Daniel leaned back in his chair, rubbing his temples. "We can't just sit here and stare at it forever," he said. "We need to respond," Lavra hesitated. Responding to an unknown signal was risky. Humanity had debated the ethics of such actions for decades. What if the sender wasn't friendly? What if responding drew unwanted attention? These questions weighed heavily on her mind. "Are you sure about this?" she asked cautiously. "It's not like we're broadcasting our location," Daniel argued. "We'll use basic universal constants mathematics, physics. If they're intelligent enough to send this signal, they'll understand." Lavra nodded slowly. She trusted Daniel's judgment, even if the idea made her uneasy. Together, they crafted a simple response, a series of pulses representing fundamental constants like the speed of light and the value of pi. It wasn't much, but it was a starter way of saying, "We're here, we hear you." They transmitted the reply and waited. Minutes stretched into hours and still nothing happened. Just as they began to think they had imagined the whole thing, alarms blared throughout the station. Red lights flashed and automated warnings echoed through the corridors. Something was coming. On the main monitor, a cluster of dots appeared, growing larger with each passing second. Ships? Dozens of them? No, hundreds. They emerged from hyperspace in a dazzling display of light and energy, surrounding the station like a swarm of metallic bees. Their designs were sleek yet rugged, clearly built for survival rather than aesthetics. Weapons bristled along their hulls and scars marred their surfaces, evidence of battles fought and survived. Panic gripped the station. Scientists scrambled to secure their equipment while engineers prepared for the worst. Daniel and Lavra exchanged worried glances. Had their response triggered this? Was it an attack? Then a voice crackled over the comms, deep and commanding. This is Captain Ryan Miller of the Arender Fleet. We received your call. We're here. The word sent a chill down Laura's spine. Arender? She had never heard of such a place. Neither had Daniel, judging by the confusion etched on his face. Before they could respond, the transmission cut off, leaving only silence in its wake. Moments later, a smaller vessel detached from the fleet and approached the station. Its movements were cautious but deliberate, as if assessing the situation. When it docked, armed figures stepped out, clad in armor that gleamed under the station's artificial lights. Leading them was a man who exuded authority. His name tag, Reed Miller, confirming his identity as the captain who had spoken earlier. Ryan Miller scanned the room, his piercing gaze taking in every detail. His eyes settled on Daniel and Lavra, who stood frozen in place. "You sent the signal," he stated, his tone leaving no room for argument. "Yes," Daniel managed to say, finding his voice despite the tension in the air. "We intercepted something. We thought it might be a distress call." Ryan's expression softened slightly, though his stance remained rigid. "It wasn't a distress call," he said. "But it doesn't matter now. You've brought us here, and we'll decide what to do next." The implications of his words hung heavy in the room. "Brought them here?" Daniel and Lavra exchanged another glance, dread pooling in their stomachs. Whatever they had done, it was bigger than either of them could have imagined. As Ryan ordered his crew to secure the station, Daniel couldn't shake the feeling that they had opened a door best left closed. One wrong transmission had led to an entire fleet arriving uninvited, their intentions unclear. And as the reality of the situation sank in, Daniel realized that humanity might never be the same again. The arrival of the Arender fleet sent shockwaves through Earth's governments. News of the mysterious ship spread like wildfire, sparking debates in every corner of the globe. Military leaders convened emergency meetings, scrambling to formulate a response. Scientists and diplomats were called in to assess the situation, but no one could agree on what to do. The fleet's sudden appearance was both awe-inspiring and terrifying, a reminder of humanity's small place in the vastness of space. Captain Ryan Miller stood at the center of it all. He had demanded a meeting with Earth's top officials, insisting that his people be heard. For now, the fleet remained in orbit, its presence looming over the planet like a storm cloud. But patience was wearing thin on both sides. Earth's leaders wanted answers, and Ryan knew he couldn't keep them waiting much longer. Daniel and Lavra found themselves caught in the middle of the chaos. After being escorted off the research station, they were taken aboard one of the Arender ships for questioning. At first, they feared the worst: imprisonment, interrogation, or worse, but Ryan treated them with surprising civility. He explained that their signal had been intercepted by the fleet's AI systems, which misinterpreted it as a cry for help from another human colony. Believing they were answering a distress call, the fleet had traveled light years only to find Eartha world they didn't recognize. Ryan's explanation left Daniel and Lavra stunned. Human colony? They exchanged uneasy glances, unsure how to respond. Ryan noticed their confusion and sighed deeply. "You don't know, do you?" he asked, his voice heavy with resignation. Before they could ask what he meant, he gestured for them to follow him. They were led deeper into the ship, past rows of armed soldiers and bustling crew members. The interior was stark and utilitarian, designed for efficiency rather than comfort. Scorch marks and dents marred the walls, evidence of battles fought and survived. The air carried a faint metallic tang, mixed with the scent of sweat and determination. It was clear that life aboard the fleet was harsh, a constant struggle against adversity. Finally, they arrived at a small chamber where a woman waited. Her name was Elena Grant, and she introduced herself as a historian tasked with preserving the stories of her people. Unlike Ryan, who radiated authority, Elena seemed approachable, almost gentle. She invited Daniel and Lavra to sit, then began sharing the history of the Arender fleet. Centuries ago, she explained, a colony ship had departed Earth during an era of exploration. Its mission was to find new worlds suitable for human habitation. But something went wrong. The ship vanished without a trace, presumed lost. What Earth didn't know was that the ship had crash-landed on a distant planet Erinder. Nicknamed Deathworld by its inhabitants, the planet was a brutal place, teeming with predators and plagued by extreme weather. Survival was a daily battle, and resources were scarce. Over generations, the survivors adapted to their harsh environment. They became stronger, more resilient, but also more isolated. Cut off from Earth, they developed their own culture, shaped by the constant struggle to endure. Decades of resource wars nearly wiped them out, forcing them to flee into space once more. Now, they wandered the galaxy searching for a new home, but finding only hostility wherever they went. As Elena spoke, Daniel and Lavar listened intently. The story was incredible, almost too unbelievable to accept. Yet the proof was undeniable. The fleet above them, the people around them, the scars of a hard-fought existence. These weren't aliens. They were humans, descendants of a forgotten chapter in Earth's history. When Elena finished, silence filled the room. Daniel leaned forward, his mind racing. "Why didn't anyone come looking for you?" he asked finally. Elena's expression darkened. "We thought they would," she admitted. "But as time passed, we realized we'd been abandoned. Earth moved on without us." Her words hit hard, stirring feelings of guilt and responsibility in Daniel and Lavra. They couldn't imagine what it must have been like to survive against impossible odds, only to discover that your ancestors had given up on you. It was a bitter revelation, one that explained the wariness in Ryan's eyes and the tension among his crew. Back on Earth, the situation grew increasingly volatile. Governments argued over how to handle the Erinder fleet. Some saw the newcomers as invaders, a threat to humanity's safety. Others viewed them as refugees, deserving of aid and compassion. The debate spilled into the public sphere, igniting protests and dividing communities. Journalist Kevin Foster covered the growing unrest, interviewing families torn apart by conflicting loyalties. His reports painted a vivid picture of a world grappling with uncertainty. Amidst the chaos, military forces took precautions. Patrols were increased and defensive measures were put in place. The fear of an attack was palpable, fueled by images of the fleet's heavily armed ships. But not everyone believed violence was inevitable. Diplomats worked tirelessly to establish communication, hoping to prevent a conflict before it began. On the Erinder fleet, tensions simmered as well. Many crew members questioned Ryan's decision to approach Earth. They had faced rejection and hostility before, and some doubted that this encounter would be any different. Arguments broke out in the mess hall, voices rising in frustration. "Why should we trust them?" one soldier demanded. "They left us to die." Ryan intervened, his commanding presence silencing the room. "Because we don't have a choice," he said firmly. "Earth is our best chance at survival. If we turn away now, we'll be wandering the stars forever." His words resonated with some, but others remained skeptical. Even Elena harbored doubts, though she kept them to herself. She understood the risks of trusting strangers, especially when those strangers were descended from the same people who had abandoned her ancestors. Still, she couldn't deny the hope that flickered in Ryan's eyes, a hope that perhaps this time, things would be different. Meanwhile, Daniel and Lavra continued working to bridge the gap between the two groups. They shared stories of Earth's history, explaining how humanity had evolved since the days of the lost colony. In return, they learned about the struggles and triumphs of the Erinder people. Slowly, trust began to form, fragile but real. Lavra found herself drawn to Elena's resilience, while Daniel admired Ryan's determination to protect his crew. Despite these efforts, the clock was ticking. Earth's leaders were losing patience, and the fleet's supplies were running low. A decision had to be made soon, one that would determine the fate of both peoples. As Daniel stared out a viewport at the blue-green orb below, he couldn't help but wonder if humanity was ready for what lay ahead. One wrong transmission had brought them here, but the choices they made next would shape the future for generations to come. Tensions between Earth and the Erinder fleet reached a boiling point. The initial shock of their arrival had worn off, replaced by fear and mistrust. Governments around the world struggled to find a unified response, but opinions were deeply divided. Some leaders argued that the Arender fleet posed a threat that needed to be neutralized before it was too late. Others believed that humanity had a moral obligation to help its long-lost kin. Meanwhile, protests erupted in cities across the globe, with citizens demanding answers and action. On the Arender side, frustration mounted as well. Supplies were dwindling, and the crew grew restless. Many questioned why they had come to Earth in the first place. "This was a mistake," muttered one soldier during a heated discussion in the mess hall. "They don't want us here." They never did. Captain Ryan Miller tried to maintain order, but even he couldn't ignore the growing discontent among his people. He knew that time was running out. If Earth didn't offer some kind of resolution soon, the situation could spiral out of control. And yet, every attempt at diplomacy seemed to hit a wall. Misunderstandings piled up, fueled by centuries of separation and differing ways of life. The breaking point came near Mars. A patrol ship from Earth's defense forces spotted one of the Arender vessels drifting closer to the planet than expected. To the patrol crew, it looked like an aggressive move, a potential invasion tactic. Without waiting for confirmation, they fired warning shots. The Arender ship responded immediately, its weapons blazing. Within minutes, the skirmish escalated into a full-blown battle. Daniel and Lavra watched the chaos unfold from aboard the Arender flagship. News of the fight spread quickly through the fleet, igniting anger and fear. "They attacked us," shouted a crew member. "We should retaliate." Ryan stood firm, his voice cutting through the uproar. "No," he said sharply. "We're not here to start a war. Not now, not ever." His words carried weight, but they didn't fully quell the rage simmering in the room. Elena stepped forward, her calm demeanor a stark contrast to the storm of emotions around her. "He's right," she said softly. "Violence will only make things worse. We need to find another way." Back on Earth, the battle near Mars sent shockwaves through the population. Images of the firefight dominated news broadcasts, stirring panic and outrage. Protesters took to the streets, some demanding peace while others called for retaliation. Journalist Kevin Foster covered the escalating unrest, capturing the voices of ordinary people caught in the crossfire. "I don't know who to believe anymore," one woman told him, tears streaming down her face. "Are they our family or our enemies?" In the midst of the turmoil, Daniel and Lavra worked tirelessly to repair the damage. They arranged a meeting between Ryan and Earth's diplomatic team, hoping to ease tensions before it was too late. The meeting took place aboard the Arender flagship, in a chamber filled with wary faces on both sides. Ryan spoke first, his tone measured but firm. "We didn't come here looking for a fight," he said. "We came because we thought you were calling for help. That misunderstanding doesn't have to define us." Earth's representatives listened silently, their expressions guarded. Finally, one of them, a diplomat named Susan Harper, spoke. "We understand your position," she said cautiously. "But you must understand ours. Your arrival has caused fear and confusion. We need assurances that you mean us no harm." Ryan nodded slowly. "Fair enough," he replied. "But I can't speak for everyone on my fleet. Some of my people are angry, and they have every right to be. What we need is time to talk, to learn about each other." "Can you give us that?" Susan hesitated before answering. "We'll do what we can," she said finally. "But the decision isn't ours alone. We'll take your request to our leaders and see where we go from there." The meeting ended without any concrete resolutions, but it was a start. Daniel and Lavra felt a glimmer of hope, though they knew the road ahead would be difficult. Trust wasn't built overnight, especially when so much was at stake. Over the next few days, efforts to improve communication intensified. Daniel and Lavra acted as intermediaries, translating cultural differences and explaining intentions. They shared stories of Earth's progress, the advancements in technology, medicine, and science. In return, they learned more about the resilience of the Arender people, their ingenuity in surviving Deathworld's harsh conditions, and their unwavering determination to protect their future. Elena played a key role in these exchanges. offering insights into her people's history and values. She explained how their struggles had shaped their worldview, making them fiercely independent but also deeply suspicious of outsiders. "We've been betrayed before," she admitted during one conversation. "It's hard for us to trust anyone, even those who share our blood." Lavra nodded, understanding the weight of Elena's words. "We've made mistakes too," she said gently. "But maybe this is our chance to do better to fix what went wrong." As trust began to grow, so did the realization that cooperation might be possible. Engineers from both sides started working together to repair damaged ships, sharing knowledge and tools. Scientists exchanged data, exploring ways to combine their respective technologies for mutual benefit. These small victories gave everyone involved a sense of purpose, a reminder that despite their differences, they were still part of the same human family, but challenges remained. Back on Earth, public opinion remained divided. Military leaders pushed for stronger defensive measures, arguing that caution was necessary. Civilians debated whether helping the Arender fleet was worth the risk. Even within the fleet itself, dissent simmered. Some crew members resented the idea of relying on Earth, viewing it as a sign of weakness. Others saw it as their only chance at survival. Through it all, Ryan held his ground, determined to find a peaceful solution. He met regularly with Daniel and Lavara, seeking advice and guidance. "You two understand both sides better than anyone else," he said during one such meeting. "If we're going to make this work, we'll need your help." Daniel and Lavara didn't hesitate to agree. They knew the stakes were high, not just for Earth and the Arender fleet, but for humanity as a whole. One wrong move could lead to disaster, but one right move could pave the way for a brighter future. As the days turned into weeks, a fragile truce began to take shape. It wasn't perfect, and it certainly wasn't easy, but it was a step in the right direction. For the first time since the Arender fleet's arrival, there was a sense that perhaps coexistence was possible. The question now was whether that fragile hope could withstand the pressures of fear, mistrust, and the unknown challenges that lay ahead. The fragile truce between Earth and the Arender fleet was put to the test as both sides struggled to find common ground. Despite the growing cooperation among engineers and scientists, old wounds ran deep, and mistrust lingered like a shadow over every interaction. The battle near Mars had left scars not just on the ships involved, but on the hearts and minds of those who witnessed it. For many, the fear of betrayal was stronger than the hope for reconciliation. Elena Grant played a crucial role in keeping the peace. Her calm demeanor and sharp intellect made her a bridge between the two groups. She spent hours sharing stories of Deathworld with Daniel and Lavra, painting a vivid picture of what life had been like for her people. Survival wasn't just about strength, she explained during one conversation. It was about unity, working together to overcome challenges no single person could face alone. Her words resonated with Daniel, who saw parallels between the struggles of the Arender fleet and humanity's own history. "Maybe that's why we're so divided now," he mused. "We've forgotten how to come together." Lavra nodded thoughtfully. "If we can remind people of that, to focus on what unites us instead of what separates us, maybe we can make this work." But reminders weren't enough. Action was needed, and time was running out. Supplies aboard the Arender fleet were dwindling faster than expected, and tensions among the crew were reaching a breaking point. Some soldiers openly questioned Ryan Miller's leadership, accusing him of being too soft on Earth. "They'll never accept us," one argued during a heated meeting. "Why are we wasting our resources trying to prove otherwise?" Ryan listened silently, his jaw tightening with each accusation. When the room fell silent, he stood up, his presence commanding attention. "Because I refuse to give up," he said firmly. "Our ancestors survived Deathworld because they fought for something better. Are we really going to throw that legacy away?" His words silenced the doubters, at least for the moment, but Ryan knew their patience wouldn't last forever. He turned to Elena after the meeting, seeking her counsel. "What do you think?" he asked quietly. "Are we doing the right thing?" Elena hesitated before answering. "I don't know if it's the right thing," she admitted, but it's the only thing we can do. If we walk away now, we'll lose more than supplies, we'll lose hope. Hope was a fragile thing, easily shattered, but vital to survival. It was the thread that held everything together, binding the Arender fleet to Earth despite their differences. And it was hope that led Elena to reveal a secret she had kept hidden until now. One evening, as Daniel and Lavra reviewed data with her, Elena pulled up an ancient map stored in the fleet's archives. The map showed star systems charted by the original colony ship, the one that had vanished centuries ago. "This is where we came from," she said, pointing to Earth's solar system. "But look closer." Daniel leaned in, studying the details. His eyes widened as he noticed something unusual, a set of coordinates marked near Earth's orbit. "What is this?" he asked. "It's the wreckage of the colony ship," Elena replied. "Or at least part of it. Our ancestors salvaged what they could before crash landing on Deathworld, but some pieces remained behind." Laura's breath caught in her throat. "You mean, it's still there?" Elena nodded. "Buried under centuries of dust and debris. Yes, but it's proof of our connection to Earth, proof that we're not strangers." The revelation stunned Daniel and Lavra. They immediately understood the significance of finding the wreckage. It wasn't just a relic of the past. It was a symbol of unity, a tangible link between two branches of humanity separated by time and distance. If they could recover it, it might help bridge the gap between Earth and the Arender fleet. Excited by the possibility, Daniel and Lava presented the idea to Ryan. At first, he was skeptical. "We don't have the resources for a recovery mission," he pointed out. "And even if we did, would Earth let us near their territory again?" "They will if we frame it as a joint effort," Lavra suggested. "A chance to work together, to learn from each other." Ryan considered the proposal, weighing the risks and rewards. Finally, he agreed to take it to Earth's leaders. The response was cautious but positive. After weeks of negotiation, a plan was formed, a team of scientists and engineers from both sides would embark on a mission to locate and study the wreckage. It was a bold move, one that required trust and collaboration, but also one that offered a glimmer of hope for the future. The mission began with high expectations. A combined crew boarded a specially equipped vessel traveling to the coordinates provided by Elena. As they approached the site, anticipation filled the air. When the scanners detected metal fragments buried beneath layers of space debris, cheers erupted throughout the ship. They had found it. Recovering the wreckage was no easy task. The debris field stretched across kilometers, and much of it was fused together by centuries of exposure to radiation and micrometeorite impacts. But the team worked tirelessly, using advanced tools and techniques developed through their shared efforts. Engineers from the Arender fleet collaborated seamlessly with their Earth counterparts, their differences fading in the face of a common goal. As pieces of the colony ship were brought aboard, memories of the past came flooding back, personal belongings, faded photographs, handwritten journals, all remnants of a lost chapter in human history. For the Arender crew, it was a bittersweet reminder of their origins. For the Earth team, it was a humbling glimpse into the sacrifices made by their ancestors. Among the recovered items was a recording device, its contents miraculously intact. When played, it revealed messages from the original colonists, detailing their journey and final moments before disaster struck. One voice stood out, a woman speaking directly to anyone who might find the wreckage. "To those who hear this," she said, her tone steady despite the chaos around her, "know that we didn't give up. We fought until the end, hoping to leave a legacy worth remembering." The message brought tears to Elena's eyes. She realized then that her people's story wasn't just one of survival, it was one of resilience, courage, and hope. And it was a story that belonged to all of humanity. When the mission returned to Earth, the impact was profound. News of the discovery spread quickly, igniting a sense of pride and connection among the population. Protests died down as people focused on the shared heritage uncovered by the joint effort. Even skeptics found it hard to deny the significance of the wreckage, which served as undeniable proof of humanity's shared roots. For the first time since the Arender fleet's arrival, There was genuine optimism about the future. Governments began drafting proposals for long-term cooperation, while grassroots movements advocated for unity and understanding. Daniel and Lavra watched these developments with a mix of relief and pride, knowing they had played a part in bringing about change, but the journey was far from over. Challenges remained and old fears still lingered beneath the surface. Yet the discovery of the colony ship's wreckage had planted a seed that could grow into something greater if nurtured properly. As Ryan looked out at Earth from the viewport of his flagship, he felt a renewed sense of purpose. "We've come so far," he murmured. "Now it's time to see how far we can go together." The discovery of the colony ship's wreckage marked a turning point. For the first time, Earth and the Arender fleet had something tangible to unite them, a shared history that could not be ignored. The artifacts brought back from the debris field were displayed in museums around the world, drawing crowds eager to learn about their forgotten kin. Photographs of smiling colonists, journals filled with dreams of a better future, and tools crafted by desperate hands told a story of resilience and determination. It was a story that resonated deeply with people on both sides. Governments began taking steps toward formal cooperation. A joint council was formed, consisting of representatives from Earth and the Arender fleet. Its purpose was to oversee collaboration and ensure that decisions benefited everyone involved. Daniel and Lavra were invited to join as advisors, their roles now more important than ever. They worked tirelessly alongside Captain Ryan Miller and Elena Grant, helping to navigate the complexities of diplomacy and mutual understanding. The first major decision the Council faced was what to do about the Arender fleet. Many of its ships were old and damaged, held together by sheer willpower and makeshift repairs. Supplies were nearly depleted, and the crew's morale was fragile. Earth offered resources: food, medicine, fuel, but some leaders hesitated, fearing it might set a dangerous precedent. "If we give them everything they need," one official argued, "what's to stop them from demanding more?" Ryan listened patiently during these debates, his expression unreadable. When it was his turn to speak, he addressed the council with quiet authority. "We're not asking for charity," he said. "We're asking for partnership. You help us restore our fleet, and we'll share what we know, our knowledge, our technology, our experience. That's how alliances are built." His words struck a chord. Slowly, the council agreed to provide aid, but with conditions. The Arender fleet would remain in orbit while repairs were made, and regular inspections would ensure transparency. In return, Earth gained access to the advanced survival techniques and engineering innovations developed by the Deathworlders. It was a compromise, imperfect but workable. As the repairs began, engineers from both sides worked side by side, learning from each other. The Arender crew introduced Earth scientists to new materials and energy-efficient designs, while Earth provided cutting-edge manufacturing tools and medical advancements. These exchanges sparked creativity and innovation, leading to breakthroughs neither group could have achieved alone. For many, it was proof that cooperation wasn't just possible, it was powerful, but progress didn't come without challenges. Old prejudices lingered, surfacing in subtle ways. Some Earth citizens viewed the Arender people as outsiders, questioning whether they truly belonged. Others within the fleet doubted Earth's intentions, fearing another betrayal. Tensions flared occasionally, especially when mistakes were made or misunderstandings arose. Yet each conflict was met with renewed effort to communicate and resolve differences. Elena played a key role in bridging these gaps. She traveled between the fleet and Earth, sharing stories and fostering connections. Her calm demeanor and deep knowledge of both cultures made her an invaluable mediator. During one visit to Earth, she spoke at a university, recounting the struggles and triumphs of her people. "We didn't survive Deathworld because we were stronger or smarter," she said. "We survived because we refused to give up on each other. That's a lesson we can all carry forward." Her speech earned a standing ovation, inspiring many to rethink their assumptions. Journalist Kevin Foster covered the event, capturing the emotions of those who attended. "It's easy to see someone as different when you focus on what separates you," he wrote in his article. But if you look closer, you might find that you're more alike than you thought. Meanwhile, Daniel and Lavra continued working behind the scenes, ensuring that communication remained open and honest. They organized cultural exchange programs, inviting Erender crew members to visit Earth and vice versa. These interactions helped break down barriers, showing that despite centuries of separation, humanity still shared a common bond. Whether it was sharing meals, playing music, or simply laughing over a misunderstanding, these moments reminded everyone of what truly mattered. As weeks turned into months, the alliance grew stronger. The repaired ships of the Erender fleet gleamed under the light of Proxima Centauri, ready to explore the stars once more. But this time, they wouldn't be alone. Earth had agreed to send a small contingent of ships to accompany them, marking the beginning of a joint mission to chart unexplored regions of space. It was a bold step, one that required trust and courage, but also one that promised untold possibilities. On the day of departure, a ceremony was held aboard the flagship. Representatives from Earth and the Erender fleet gathered to mark the occasion, their faces reflecting a mix of pride and hope. Ryan stood at the podium, addressing the crowd with heartfelt gratitude. "When we first arrived here," he said, "we weren't sure what to expect. We feared rejection, even hostility. Instead, we found family imperfect, complicated, but family nonetheless." His words drew applause, followed by speeches from Earth's leaders and members of the Joint Council. Finally, Daniel and Lavra stepped forward, speaking on behalf of everyone who had worked to make the alliance a reality. "This isn't just about repairing ships or sharing resources," Daniel said. "It's about proving that humanity is capable of coming together, even after centuries apart." Lavra nodded, adding, "We've learned so much from each other, not just about science or technology, but about resilience, compassion, and hope. Let's keep building on that foundation." The ceremony ended with a symbolic gesture, a handshake, between Ryan and Susan Harper, the diplomat who had initially questioned the fleet's intentions. Cameras captured the moment, broadcasting it to audiences around the world. It was a powerful reminder that even the deepest divides could be bridged with patience and effort. As the fleet prepared to leave orbit, emotions ran high for the Erender crew. It was a bittersweet moment. They were leaving behind a planet that had once seemed foreign but had become a source of hope and connection. For Earth citizens, it was a chance to show that humanity could reach beyond its borders, not as conquerors, but as equals. Elena watched from the observation deck as the fleet moved into formation, flanked by Earth's ships. She felt a surge of pride, knowing how far they had come. Turning to Daniel and Lavra, she smiled softly. "Do you think we'll see each other again?" she asked. Daniel grinned. "Of course. This isn't goodbye, it's just the start of something bigger." Lavra nodded in agreement. "And next time, maybe we'll meet somewhere new. Somewhere neither of us has been before." With that, the fleet disappeared into hyperspace, leaving Earth behind but carrying its legacy forward. The journey ahead would be long and uncertain, but for the first time in centuries, the Erender people weren't wandering aimlessly. They had a destination and companions willing to walk beside them. Back on Earth, life slowly returned to normal. But the impact of the alliance lingered, shaping policies and perspectives in ways no one could have predicted. Schools began teaching the story of the Erender fleet, emphasizing the importance of unity and cooperation. Scientists and engineers continued collaborating, driven by the belief that humanity's greatest achievements lay ahead. For Daniel and Lavra, the experience changed everything. They had started as researchers chasing signals in the void, unsure of what they might find. Now, they were part of something larger, a movement to redefine what it meant to be human. As they stood together, watching the stars twinkle in the night sky, they couldn't help but feel a sense of wonder. One wrong transmission had led to an entire fleet arriving from Deathworld, bringing with it the promise of a brighter future. "It's funny," Lavra said, breaking the silence. "If we hadn't sent that signal, none of this would have happened." Daniel smiled, his gaze fixed on the horizon. "Maybe it wasn't a mistake," he replied. "Maybe it was destiny." And as the sun rose over a new day, it brought with it the hope that humanity's best days were yet to come.